is it really a budget debate if the CDC voucher does not get a mention? The additional $500 in CDC vouchers remain on course to fulfill its mission of supporting Singaporean households with daily expenses, as well as support heartland merchants and hawkers. Since January 2023, 50% of any tranche of vouchers could be used at participating supermarkets, a welcomed move by Singaporeans. That said, there are opportunities to refine the scheme to enhance its impact. Greater flexibility on how and where they can be used may increase its value to households and support more local businesses. For example, in private residential estates or new neighbourhoods where a market or food centre are a few precincts or zones away, allowing the CDC vouchers to be used at locally owned enterprises in privately owned buildings or malls will expand help for families. Alternatively, aligned with my earlier suggestion for cost of living special payment, the CDC vouchers could take on a similar tiered approach. Plus, distributing CDC vouchers on a per-person versus a household basis may more accurately tackle the cost of living pressures in multi-generational, multi-family households.
This budget introduces yet another tranche of CDC vouchers. Singaporeans can be forgiven for treating the scheme as a permanent one. It was not originally conceived as such when CDC vouchers were set at $100 per household. With another $500 tranche to be disbursed in 2027, the time has come to refine the CDC voucher scheme to better help Singaporean families. Currently, the vouchers are distributed on a per-household basis regardless of household size. That is not equitable. A household of 2 individuals receives the same as a household of 5. I propose a simple and targeted adjustment. Retain the $500 base for all households of 3 members or fewer. For owner-occupied households with more than 3 members, provide an additional $150 per person. Based on the average Singapore household size of 3.06 persons in 2025, this is a modest and practical refinement, one that better reflects the actual cost of living burden larger families carry.
I have 3 suggestions for social policy. The first is to reframe or reposition CDC vouchers. Singaporeans are by now very familiar with CDC vouchers, which we have received yearly since 2021. If I'm not wrong, the value of CDC vouchers, SG60 vouchers, and Life SG credits announced in last year's budget amounted to over $3 billion. However, the vouchers also appear to some as mere band-aid for the cost of living, something that's neither sustainable nor targeted. I take a different view. I see a useful role for vouchers and credits in our social support system, complementing structural or permanent transfers such as the Workfare Income Supplement, Silver Support, the GST voucher, along with healthcare and housing subsidies. The advantage of vouchers is that they can be sized according to need. For instance, more can be given when inflation is high and cost of living pressures are elevated, and when more fiscal resources are available. I believe that with a reframing, the role of the vouchers would be better appreciated by Singaporeans as a form of support that is anchored in the shared ownership of Singapore's success. The vouchers and credits could be repositioned as a social dividend, an annual sum given to citizens that signifies that they have a stake in the country and its collective wealth. The government can determine the size of the dividend it declares each year, depending on prevailing fiscal and economic conditions. The dividend should be universal and progressive, meaning that everyone receives something, while the less well-off receive more. A social dividend would be a form of social support that complements the structural transfers, is flexible in size, and sends a clear message of solidarity and inclusion. This reframing would shift the narrative from short-term relief to shared participation in national progress. The second suggestion is to give low-income households part of the social dividend in income-generating assets and securities beyond just cash and vouchers. The government has already adopted various forms of asset-based social policy. These include the CPF system to build our savings, the home ownership policy that has given most Singaporeans valuable housing equity, and periodic CPF top-ups for those who have less retirement savings. The government could consider broadening the types of transfers to include income-generating assets, such as mutual funds. This could be designed so that recipients would not be allowed to sell these assets within a certain vesting period and can earn a stream of income from them over time. Asset-based transfers can strengthen financial resilience and foster a shift in mindset from short-term spending to long-term wealth building and stewardship. Provided they are carefully designed to manage market risk and complexity, such measures offer a complementary pathway to narrow wealth gaps and broaden participation in asset ownership.